Welcome to the Grit Growth Podcast. Commit to conquer, lead your life, leave a legacy, gather your grit, and let's get after it.
Rick, how's it going, man?
Good. I'm not on video.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Have you met Carson before, Rick?
I don't think so. Hey, Carson, nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you. How's it going?
Good, great, thank you.
Good.
So Carson and I used to work together at CPPI, kind of formed a relationship there, and obviously it's continued, and working more. So I'm working with Carson. Carson's the spearhead for the Grit Growth, and I'm here kind of supporting him and with the podcast. And anyway, great to have you joining us today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I was gonna look it up. It must be at home, but I have a book called Grit. Don't know if you guys have read it.
Is it Angela Duckworth's?
I believe so. I don't remember for sure, but I think it is. I remember it was a woman.
Yeah, is the subtitle "The Power of Passion and Perseverance"? Does that sound right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that book. It's actually part of my inspiration for this.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I kind of, from my perspective, it was kind of the academic approach, and I didn't really see. I saw a hole in the market as far as applying it to a business approach. It's kind of something that people talk about, but I didn't see where anybody had bridged the gap between academia and application. So that's kind of where I stepped in, and I think there's a need for it, and I'm hoping to get that message out in a way that, your typical entrepreneur or guy or person that's climbing the corporate ladder can apply it to their own life.
Yeah, I mean, in concept and the way you guys defined it, I love that. Sometimes it's hard when I think of like the best example of that, because I think once you understand that concept of grit, you also apply it to everything, right? So I have something called "Do What You Say You Will Do."
Yeah.
And like that could mean all kinds of different stuff to you, but it really is that, you come across these roadblocks and other stuff, and how do you apply that? It's not fearless. It's not, to me, it's an educated approach to getting to your goals, right? And then it's all the stuff you talked about with vigor and other things. So it can apply to sports, it can apply to business, it can apply to family life, like in my case. All kinds of stuff. And the other thing was, there's a book you probably like too, Carson, or both of you would like, but it's called like The Tribal Approach. But I had a guy that helped coach me that was an All Blacks captain, like the team. Some of their tribal approach is very gritty, like you just get the edge, right? And then you apply that, and that you never have any doubt that you're going to be successful, because it's just a matter of executing on all the stuff you did, and don't let the roadblocks get in your way.
Yeah, that's cool. I have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see the All Blacks are often cited when it comes to culture, and the culture of that team, and the grit associated with that team, and just playing for one another, playing for
it's the tribal,
a bigger,
It's the Hakas and they're the regional guys, and like they have grit though when they start doing a Haka in front of you.
Right.
And you're like, I'm not sure, I don't care how big this guy is. I don't want to take him on right now.
That's right. Yeah, it's hard to watch that and not be inspired, for sure.
Well, it's kind of like we talk at my company about, it's okay for me to bust their chops. Like, that's my brother, but don't, God forbid, anybody else talk about my brother that way, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's the tribal thing.
Definitely.
Is he hazing our pledge? I think so. Wait
That's
a minute.
right.
Only we can haze our pledges.
That's right. I'm allowed to do that. He is not.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
Awesome.
awesome. Well, we appreciate you joining us, Rick, and we're, Carson and I have talked about kind of doing a series of these and kind of keeping them themed. And, this one, this kind of set is being themed around entrepreneurship and business owners or people within the business community, and specifically within Gainesville. So, we're both native to the area. At least I consider myself now native to the area. And so we really wanted to put together at least 10 to 15 podcasts of business leaders within the Gainesville Alachua community, and kind of kick off the grit growth, around that kind of business grit. Now, as we've talked about, Carson and I talked about, that can expand on, into religion, into personal strife, into overcoming there's a lot of different themes that we can take these grouping of podcasts around. And I say all that because we would love to have you on again, as we talk about, those different aspects of people's lives and how grit applies to it. As we open the conversation, it applies across the board. And want to hear about Tyler's hope and everything behind, your family and your children, and how you're probably the grittiest ones out there when it's all said and done. Today, we really want to focus on kind of the business aspect in Intermed, and how you then have taken a business of kind of reselling, getting into the market, figuring out that niche, and the perseverance and everything it took. That's what we want to hear about today, is what did it take to keep your business going, in addition to your family life and everything going on there. A lot of grit. And I know that kind of ties in, but yeah, again, this continues on. We definitely, when we get to that segment, we want to have you on talking about that, or whoever you think within your family is best. Maybe it's your whole family, but
Right.
we can get there too.
Yeah. That would be great. Yeah, as you know, like some of it, I try to, whatever it is, even with the company or whatever else, bring all the things that you spend your time on together to help, get through those barriers sometimes. And so Tyler's Hope is a big part of Intermed. I think it has a role in its success, but it's a different example of grit, I think, to your point.
Right. Yeah. And we'd love to hear how it ties in, right? Because being an entrepreneur, just being successful in life is a balancing act of life, right? I mean, it's not all or other, or one or the other. And I think when we're all said and done, what do you remember for? It's not the toys you've had. It's not necessarily the monetary or the material successes, but it's how you've treated people along the way, and the legacy you leave with people. And so Carson and I are sitting here talking to you and others in this community that are leaving a legacy with other people, that are at the end of our lives. Hope someone says, man, Matt taught me something, or Carson showed me something, or Rick showed me, how to overcome this. And I mean, that's victory. That's the real win when it's all said and done. So, I mean, absolutely, as conversation goes, and how's it all tie in, and how's the balance work? I mean, that's all part of, being successful at life. I could, have the best business, but no family life at all. But with it successful, probably not.
I think you alluded to it earlier too. The old adage of how you do one thing is how you do everything. And some people, I think, apply that, but then, like Matt just said, some people, might let the personal side fall by the wayside in favor of their business if they have that tendency. So how do you balance it, and maybe someone else can learn from your juggling act?
Yeah, no, that's a good. I hope you could draw that out where it is helpful, because a lot of times I can summarize it in it's a mindset more than anything, an attitude about stuff. That you're not going to accept anything less than the outcome that you want. but and so everything else is just a temporary roadblock that you get through, you know. But and that applies to, I mean, if you have the right mindset and the attitude about it, applies to everything you do, your religion, your family, your business, you know, stuff you haven't even come across yet.
Yeah.
It empowers you to, you know, say, well, it doesn't matter what comes. I always say, there's not one thing on this planet. Well, there's one thing on this planet that I fear. Like, you could put me naked and exposed in front of a biker gang that wants to kill me and whatever, you know. I feel like, you know, like I'll deal with all of those things. The spider's the only thing I can't really fight back. I get, you know, that's some that'll get on you and you can't do nothing. It just crazy. But the you know, and that could be some religion, you know, for sure, spiritual side of the way you approach life. You don't, death is not the worst.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm excited to, you know, there's one thing that I don't do, and that is I will always share my opinion. All right, if asked.
Yeah.
I just tell you my truth. Like, I don't hide anything or keep anything back or whatever. I think it's transparent as you can be, because then you also realize you got nothing to hide.
Right. Right. And if it's always the truth, then how can you lie?
That's right.
Right.
Well, and like, what are you doing that you got to hide, you know, what you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
We all have stuff we're not proud of, but like, especially this day and age, why would you pretend that it's not going to come out at some point? Just do the right thing.
I can think of a couple instances like that.
Yeah.
that I've recently had to deal with. Someone
Yeah.
thinking that it wasn't going to get out.
Yeah. And or, you know, but you know, in reality, a lot of people are just trying to hide some of those things versus dealing with it. And then you know more about what you should or shouldn't have done rather than what you're getting away with.
Yeah.
Like, it
Well,
doesn't
there's,
cost.
yeah, the more transparent you are, if you're trying to hide things, it's got a power over you. You're making decisions based on what you're trying to hide. And if you're transparent and you get it out, it takes the power of that away from whatever that is you're trying to hide.
Yeah,
And
that's
you
exactly
don't
right.
realize, yeah,
That
you don't
gives you
realize
some
how
of
you're
your
being
control.
controlled. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Right.
Like I've also used it in terms of like the Holy Spirit or whatever else. Like, you go into a situation and you feel like you're bulletproof, right?
Yeah.
So then it's a matter of like pushing through because you know what the end result's going to be.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's kind of pause for a second, back up. I want to hear a little bit, and I don't know this story. It's kind of how Intermed got started. How did you get it going, and kind of how did it get to the point here, and maybe along that journey, Rick, what were one or two maybe key pivotal points that you had to overcome and show some grit, you know, in that journey?
So there's a lot there, but I can tell you, when, you know, I was young, I was working in the field, which is now healthcare technology management, for another group that was owned by a big Nicaraguan political figure.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
so I worked there for a few years, learned it, always felt, you know, I guess I didn't realize that I was the entrepreneur that I am, but I always felt like I could do this better, you know, and I can make things better, and whatever. It was part of, you know, repairing equipment, fixing equipment. It's like mowing your grass, right? You get the sense of satisfaction of coming up with a solution for something, you know, seeing it better. So I had that, I tried to buy the company. Because he was getting all his property back in Nicaragua and was spending the money in there. And uh, uh, long story short, I tried to buy the company. I put together funding. I'm 22, 23 years old, something like that. And uh, I got the funding, but then realized it's really risky for me. These people are investing in me, and I don't know if I'm willing to put that out there. But I also thought that a much, you know, I wasn't sure how. I had some scary things going in the way. Long story short, I backed out of that purchase. Um, Worked for him and set up a few things as they went through an acquisition. And when they did, I went and started my own thing, which was the Intermed Group, right? So, and I had built relationships up. I had figured out the business, enough to where I say I can tweak these things and really do a better job than what a lot of the people that do the same thing are doing, right? So it grew over time. I had 4 subchapter S Intermed groups that we brought in to make the Intermed group. They were Intermed Nuclear Medicine, Intermed X-ray, Intermed Ultrasound, Intermed Biomedical. And we brought them all together, integrated them, and in what is now the Intermed Group. And we went from doing a small North Florida-based local business to a national provider of healthcare technology management. But I think, and this happens all the time, we put some things in place, a mission and everything else that has become even more and more relevant as time went on. And that, what I mean by that is, we had people always talk about the why. We had a soul to the company that we were going to affect all of healthcare and have better outcomes. And it was about the people, not just the work. So it was about the people internally at Intermed, about the people that we affect, the patients and their families, and accessibility in healthcare. And you can't just do that at a local level if you're going to you're going to have a really big impact, right? So, and there's always stumbling blocks. I could tell you, I think I was making $19,000 a year and had just bought my first house so that I could get married and whatever. And so not having really a job or starting up a new company was scary, but not as scary as borrowing that much money to buy the other one to me.
Right.
If you equate that to gritty, I always look back at like the Sam Waltons and like hell, even the people that are financially more successful, the Bill Gates or the whoever else, the Apple guy, can't remember,
Steve
Jobs. They worked on their craft. They didn't borrow a bunch of money. I just remember Sam Walton having fold out tables and chairs and stuff rather than nice offices, even when he's huge. And what bank wouldn't want to help him? But I think it's gritty. Like you have to grind. Now everybody's taught, you want to love what you do, and you have to, start out with a bunch of capital to get something started. No, the grit is like you'll love the things that you really learn how to do, and you'll learn to love those things if you work real hard at it, right? And then you get really good at it. And I think that's part of grit. A mindset says, for me to achieve my goals, I got to learn all the stuff somebody else might know that I don't, and help people understand the bigger picture of, getting to where we have the impact that we desire, that we want to have, and nothing else is gonna stop that. You know, I mean, you still have the flexibility. You put up a roadblock that you didn't anticipate, COVID or something, but if you know where you're going, then you go around that roadblock. You figure out a way around it, right?
Do you think having that, that goal, that North Star, mission, whatever you want to call it, and I think it's more than a mission, it's really the end state, to a certain extent, helps keep the motivation and the drive and the grit going?
Yeah, so I think you have to have a vision of what you're doing things for, right? And whether it's serving on a board of directors for somebody or whatever else, you don't want to check the box. Like, to me, at least, I always want to do something where I am going to have an impact. Otherwise, if I'm one of 15 people or whatever doing the same thing and just checking the box, then it's a waste of time. We don't have that much time on this planet, right, to do that. So you have to know, what are you trying to impact? Why are you doing certain things? And then when you have that vision for what are those impacts, then any other information will really just emboldens you to get to that point, right? If I firmly believe in something, and you can play contrarian and do all kinds of stuff, and I welcome that all the time, because I want to know the stuff that I might not have thought about. However, usually what it does is just emboldens me in the direction that I've set out to begin with, right? It makes me more secure in we're doing the right thing here, right?
Yeah.
You can adjust that path and do whatever else based on input that you may not have known, but ultimately knowing what that long-term goal is, and then it's an attitude. You become more emboldened. You know it's going to happen, and if you really visualize that and see that it can happen, then there's nothing that can keep you from achieving that, right? Like, I really believe that. It may take a lot longer or be a lot more difficult or whatever along the journey, but and then you get inspired by having done that a few times. If you it's like going the extra mile when you're running, and then once you do it, you go, now I know I can do it every time.
Right.
It's you do something that somebody else says that you can't do, or they don't, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. Like, the next time, you're gonna have all kinds of stuff thrown at you, and you're just gonna keep plugging away until you get there, because you know you can do it. Right.
Right. Each time you pass that plateau, you gain confidence, and the next one doesn't seem like such a burden.
That's right. It snowballs. It becomes who you are, right? Like, I read a book. We were talking about those books earlier, Carson, but I read a book about these kids that helped. I think it was during the Holocaust or something, but these kids that were taught by their parents, oh, you did great sharing today with that, or Carson is a sharer, right? And you become, like, you just see yourself as a sharer, so you're going to share all the time. It's not even a thought process.
And how that becomes an identity.
Yeah, they're like, you risked your life to save people during the Holocaust was how it related. They said, why? And they go, it's just who I was. Like, I couldn't let these people, die, even I put my life at risk, right? You don't think about it. And I've seen that a number of times, do what you say you're going to do. We talked about that before with our foundation, or anything that comes up that can be, a real daunting task. But you say, you know, we're going to do this. And then, you know, there's a tenacity and all the things that you talked about before, a vigor that says, I'm going to do everything to make sure I get that ultimate outcome. Right.
Absolutely. So that is the do what you say you're going to do. So I remember being in your office, and this, you might remember this, probably 10, 12 years ago. We're talking about some development stuff over there in Progress Park. And I remember seeing it wasn't the acronym, but the initials of do what you say you're going to do on your board.
Can you see that at the bottom of my board?
Yeah, it was at your other one too, in your other office.
Yeah. Yep. So it's always there. Sorry, I just somehow lost you guys the video, but it's always there. But again, it's a mentality, because it could mean I'm going to be at your house for dinner tomorrow night, right? And to me, like, you don't have a choice at that point. That's what you said you were going to do. Like, you may not want to go, you don't want to go out, whatever else. Be easy to call up and say, you know, my wife isn't feeling good or something, you know, whatever it is. But you also, just like we talked about with that grit before, you end up going because you said you were going to go, and now you're empowered. That's going to happen every time.
Yeah.
Right? And all the people around you see you as, I always do what they say they're going to do. Right. It would be a shock if they didn't.
Right.
Yeah. You either live it or you don't. Right. You can't have it both ways. It's consistency.
And like you said, Carson, it's all aspects of your life. Right.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do it just for this or that. You got to do it for your family, for your, you know, whatever the important things are, every aspect of your life.
Right. Show up for the podcast and the T-ball game.
That's right. Yeah. And you know, it's a core principle, but it goes with some of the stuff that I think you guys, and I commend you for doing this, the grit growth is an attitude that of, you know, you there's one thing that you can control that no one else has any input on, no matter what you're faced with, your mentality, your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a positive mindset, then, like, I believe you're unstoppable. Like, I've seen it over and over again, all this stuff where we see it in movies and it becomes reality. I don't think there's anything that is unachievable with the right attitude, right? But it's got to be the right attitude. And sometimes you have to feed that positive attitude, because, you know, everybody has some ups and downs. So put stuff around other people that say, you know, Matt, you're the epitome of grit. Like, you're gritty. But when you're not feeling so gritty, you're going to be gritty real quick. You know?
That's right. Yeah. You got people counting on you.
That's right. Well, and
you
know what they expect of you, and that's a good expectation.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. It's funny you mentioned movies portraying that with characters, because, you know, it's glorified in movies, right? You know, Jason Statham, you know, Chris Pratt, Bruce Willis, whatever, every, you know, action, you know, guy movie, whatever, that gritty mentality, right, is glorified, and every guy walks out of there with their chest poked out, like, I could do that. And then we go about our lives and it's the opposite. And it's like, where did it go? Where's the easy button? Why do I have to work so hard? I deserve this promotion and I don't have to do anything for it. It's, you know,
right.
So what is and I know this isn't like a academia psychological discussion, but I just am fascinated by, where's the disconnect?
You mean, why do we lose it?
Yeah, where do we lose it between walking out of the movie and the 30-minute drive home, and it's
I don't think we,
you know,
I really don't think we lose it. I think we or maybe lose is a good word. We temporarily misplace it. It's not gone forever. I think
maybe we're distracted. from it.
you distracted, or you not, you come across some negative people that say it'd be a lot easier just to kind of go with the flow or whatever. So
Mhm.
it's also, it builds on, it snowballs, right? You get around people and they go like, well, he said he's going to do it. I'm certain he's going to do it, or she or whatever. And it's, we see it. I said, like, that's probably why, I used to think I was a prepper, just like to learn everything and prepared for, whatever. But if you watch the reality shows now, Naked and Afraid and all that stuff, it's really about, the grit.
Oh,
Saying
yeah.
something's really difficult, and yet, but I could do this, right?
Yeah.
And I know, if that's something you want to achieve, like, they're basically saying, I have the grit to do this, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of stuff, but I was also talking about, like, not just the Bruce Willises or the characters or the Rockies or whatever that show that, but I think, in reality, you take these sci-fi movies or whatever else, whatever we can think of, we can tends to become reality, right?
Mhm.
So as far-fetched as it is, you got enough uh, mental strength and drive, and you pretty much can achieve whatever.
Yeah.
And I think everything that is a potential issue is also an opportunity.
Mhm.
Like there's so many opportunities out there, and you guys know, we talked about it before. My kids have disabilities, right?
Right.
And one thing we talked about, because they were known for the foundation, so they were treated a little better as they got older because people knew them from the foundation aspect. But transition from high school to college, maybe people didn't care about your disabilities anymore. They cared about your abilities only. So you're competing for the same stuff. And sometimes having disabilities or the underdog situation it gives you opportunities that others don't have. Like, you show enough grit and you can completely do things that people didn't think were possible or didn't expect, right? And I think that's, I know when I'm at my grittiest, it's it's when people say I can't do something or they doubt, right? Like, I almost encourage that to happen,
Yeah.
because that's how
So
you.
what sparks? What sparks inside? Like there's something, right? Someone, hey, Rick, bet you can't. And something snaps,
Yeah, or
right?
they don't even,
What is
they
that?
just like, we'll see, whatever. Like I think one of the grittiest things I ever did was, and it was for our foundation with some guys, a few of them from Intermed, but we ran an Ultra Ragnar, which is
Okay.
200
Yep.
miles, right? I'm not a runner. I'm 6'2", was 245, I'm down to 230.
Okay.
But just not a great runner. That was a tremendous achievement, but it was the grit to get through there for what it represented, and because no one thought I could do it. Right.
What was the
Definitely.
hardest part about that? Was it the physical or the mental?
Well, both. I think everything is mental, right? Like, your body will be able to do way more things if you're mentally in the right space, or you have the right attitude about it. Then, even like we talk about, you run the furthest you've ever run, and you are out, but then you run another mile. At that point, you know that you can do it every time.
You can always take one more step.
That's right. And
Right.
or whatever it is, a little bit quicker. I mean, why do you think we keep setting world records?
Mhm.
when they said,
That's right.
you know, it's not like by a tenth of a hundredth of a second, you
Mhm.
know, if that is thousandths of a second, right? Like, how's that happen? Well, I just think you can achieve about anything, and we get better at doing that. You can't, we have world records that they say were not physically possible.
Mhm.
You know, look at the divers, you know, the
Oh yeah.
deep sea divers, they go, physically, it's impossible, you know, to clear your oxygen and, you know, just go at that depth or whatever. You go, okay, well, but except for this example,
Right.
right? And
Yeah. Right.
they had to work up to that.
Right. Yeah, I'm really interested in, you said about the underdog mentality and your kids' disability, maybe up until a certain point, giving him opportunities as opposed to the other way around. And I think that's another kind of societal mindset that, you know, it's easy to look at somebody who's already successful or already a star athlete and just say, wow, it must be nice. Or, you know, if I had that
It's
guy's
easy for them.
that, if I had that guy's money, or if I had that guy's genes, you know what I mean? But with the way you flipped it, and I'm trying to remember exactly how you worded it, but basically you can look at it the
About your
opposite way.
ability. Yeah,
Yeah.
they only want to know about your abilities, not your disabilities.
Right.
Yeah.
And you could see that with, there's a great coffee book you know, I'm trying to remember, but it's about this couple that works in a sweatshop. And, you know, so obviously reading and getting this information too has helped embolden that approach, that attitude towards stuff. But you know, they were destined to always be in a sweatshop, but then somehow they mentally got into the place they thought they could do something else, and then they no longer belonged in the sweatshop and went and started a business. Otherwise, they were destined for staying in the sweatshop, right? But for, you know, your abilities and the grit, there, society is unfortunately, and we just, because it's like saying killing puppies or whatever else, we can't call it out. Kind of like, you got to do what you love to do. No, hell no, you got to put some time and effort into it, and then you're going to love it, right?
Yeah.
You don't start out with all this money, but the gosh, I forgot, lost my train of thought there. Uh, we're talking about your abilities.
Yeah. People caring about what you can do, you know, not necessarily the advantages around you, you know, and then how do you, you know, people not necessarily seeing the work that went into, you know, what got you there. Again, having to do like what we like to say, beat your toes first, right? You got to do some of that dirty work, the things you don't necessarily like. But if you can turn it and say, these are the things I do like to get to my passion, then
I know it was like the society also says, well, you know, it's their background is the reason why. Like, I believe in giving everybody opportunities, right? But not everybody is going to capture that. And some people will take some bad circumstances and do great things, right? And so making lemonade out of lemon sometimes, and it doesn't always have that. But I honestly think, you know, you have a better opportunity to be more impactful if you start with less.
That's
Right.
right.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
You got to come a further way. But so, you know, should everybody in society, you know, get equal pay and, you know, everybody get a trophy or whatever else? No, like, how does that encourage grit?
Right.
right,
You
right,
know,
the opposite effect.
right. And but you know, you're you know, especially coming from somebody who's been relatively successful, you know, they don't want to hear that. They just think, well, it's okay for you to say that because, you, whatever, have
Yeah.
money, have these resources.
Right. Must be nice to be the CEO.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't see when you made that decision when you were 22 and
the courage that went into
right.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or
the fear. Yeah.
the easy thing would be not to be the CEO,
Right.
like really, and retire or whatever. And but it's about the job and how I think I can impact more people than not being here.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's the ones that overcome the most that make history, right? It's if you're quote unquote privileged and you quote unquote make it, then you're kind of expected to. But if you were the underdog, like you said, and you statistically had very low chances of making it, and then you make it, that's the guy that people want to hear about. But you got to have that determination and that grit from the get-go to ever see that come to light. It's
and some of that grit is, Carson, what you explained is I don't know the best definition, but it's the risk, the willingness to take, and risk might not be a good word because it's an educated risk, but a risk in that, like, I have to do something different. I have to embrace change in order to have a bigger impact, right? Like, I can slightly change something and make it a little bit bigger, but in order to have something that affects more people bigger, you got to think about them differently and be willing to pursue that. Well, hence SpaceX, Tesla, whatever. Like, and who knows? It's all relative to what they think is successful. But you got to put yourself out there. Like, I've heard Elon Musk say he didn't even think about whether Tesla was going to be successful. He never planned on it being. He just had to build a car-operated battery that was fast and luxurious, and like all the things we said wasn't possible. They weren't, right?
That's right. Yeah, have you guys heard of Damon West and Be a Coffee Bean?
Yeah, actually,
Yeah,
that's
that really reminded me a lot just then of his whole concept. And for people who maybe are on the fence about capitalizing on an opportunity, I would highly suggest they look up that guy and listen to his story, because it's powerful stuff.
There are some things that are really powerful that I think help with grit. There's one, the energy bus. Not sure if you're familiar with that, but I'm a big believer in, some people say it's spiritual or whatever, but you get energy and energy begets energy, right? Like, for every action, there's a opposite or equal reaction. And, like, the whole thing about being around the people you want to get better, be around the people that make you better, not the ones that want to, like, it's the same with your energy. And your energy is goes into your attitude. Your willpower is the strongest thing you can control. Like, it doesn't matter what, to quote Happy Gilmore, you can go to your happy place even when your surroundings aren't all there. Like, what else can you do if you think everything's a bed of roses? It's a bed of roses.
Yeah. When back to the energy bus and kind of that surrounding yourself, with greatness to a certain extent, and or grit, and or whatever it is you desire. Because if you're surrounding yourself with the opposite, with the naysayers, with the negative, and that's all you hear, it does, to a point, become very difficult to overcome that. So how do you, in the pursuit of your passion, of your goals, how do you then take and put yourself in a situation or a surround yourself with people who are going to help you get there versus try to tear it down. And that takes some courage to kind of even move yourself into a better situation and even away from what you're comfortable to make things happen. A drug addict getting out of rehab goes back to his old friends is probably going to end up back in rehab.
Right.
There's a point where you got to change your environment to be successful, and that's not not everyone, but there's
Yeah, but what happens is the longer you do that, let's take the drug addict, right? The longer you're away and you're around the other things, the less tolerant you become of the old ways.
right.
So you get around, spend energy. Maybe it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back at first, but the more you surround yourself and the more you empower yourself to like have that attitude no matter what, then you're less tolerant of the other ones. That doesn't mean you're mean to them or don't hang out with them or anything. You just go, that's just not the way I see it. Like, I hear it all the time. The people say, we can't do this. I go, I don't understand why.
Right.
Right. And usually don't have an answer.
Right.
Just
Right.
it's hard.
Yeah. It's difficult. I say, yeah, well, that's different.
That's different than can't.
Yeah.
Well,
And you don't
Rick,
want to.
We've got about 10 minutes left in our hour, and like to do is just a quick little recap, and then maybe some kind of closing remarks to be respectful of your time with us. But kind of starting out as that entrepreneur, kind of making that courageous decision early in your life, saying, man, I can basically build a better widget. You kind of said, hey, I see what you're doing here, and there's some tweaks I can make to make it better. And starting the Intermed group and being able to affect people at a higher level healthcare, providing better healthcare, and having that kind of higher purpose within what you do has been that North Star and kept that grit and that dream and goals alive for you as you go through, and ultimately kind of culminating in the attitude aspect of this and really that mental mindset of what we're just ending on here, what you can do versus what you can't. And it's really about what you can do and having that attitude. I mean, the mantra within your company, do what you say you're going to do, provides a great cover umbrella of so many different aspects of the attitude and what you're after. If you say you're going to do it. That's integrity. That's a willingness to succeed. That's, again, removing roadblocks that has come up. That saying, that slogan, that mantra seems to embody what you and Intermed's about and what has made you and Intermed successful, both professionally and personally. So, I hope I've kind of put a quick recap on what we talked about here today. Those are some awesome takeaways and things that, I appreciate hearing from you on. And so I thank you for the transparency.
I would say even with do what you say you will do, which is also cool because it's a palindrome and all those things together. But really, it is, if you can get people to think in that way and you kind of help them understand what that truly means, then all the empowerment comes from that. And they, in other words, when they do it, then they realize how much of a mental and a powerful tool that is, right?
Yeah.
So if you get them to get in the habit of doing that, then it just builds.
Yes. Yeah. Step by step.
And it's not
You
easy.
didn't get to the top of the flight by jumping there.
That's right.
One step at a time.
Yep. That's right.
And I'm totally impressed that we got the word palindrome in this podcast.
Well, that's what made it kind of cool. It made it easy.
That's right.
Yeah, that is cool. That's nice.
Any other kind of closing remarks? I mean, we've hit quite a few things here in our time together. Any kind of closing remarks for those listening? Any last motivations?
No, other than I appreciate what you guys are doing because I think it does help. It gets people, it's that energy that we talked about that tells people you know, you can do this, and a lot of it is mental and the attitude and the grit about achieving what you want to achieve, right? Don't accept anybody else telling you that you can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great stuff.
Carson?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it, Rick. And I can't wait to get this published. And I know people are going to really benefit from it. It's going to resonate. And if it impacts just one person and they do something with it, then it'll definitely be worth the last 54 minutes, without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the time, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hope to have you back on again soon when we go into phase 2 or phase 3. We'll see what happens.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Carson.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Rick. Hey, when are you gonna be at the gym?
Well, I was there this morning. I'll be there tomorrow morning.
All right. Friday mornings, 5:45.
Because I was doubting myself. So now I know.
See, now we still got Fight Club.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah, but-
Friday mornings, 5:45. You need to come join us.
First rule. What is it, competitive?
No, well, it is kind of.
Where are you?
We're all looking at each other going, I can do more than that guy.
Right.
Where are you at, Matt? Where are you talking about?
Main
Yeah, so
center.
We're meeting at the main center.
Yeah.
Fitness main center downstairs in the big aerobics room.
Yeah, so
Group classroom, and there's usually between 4 to 8 of us that show up, and we put together some of workout, and we all a small group it. And
I'm doing Go Primal right now, and then I go to Tioga for weights and stuff and off. But Fight Club, I used to go to Dark Side Arena with
okay,
Ryan, and but I would come home too beat up, so I had to give that up. A little older, but I like that. I figured nobody could do anything I can't do, but I was wrong. Yeah.
Just need more practice. See, we all show up and
All I
try
do
to
is
keep
prove
up
it
with
one
Matt.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All I do is prove it one time.
yeah,
Now they can't take that away from me. Kind of like the Ragnar.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. Major accomplishment.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. I'll look you up. When did you say it was? What days?
Friday mornings, 5:45.
Friday mornings, 5:45. Yeah, well, that's the time I like to go.
Yeah.
Where? But what area? The outside area by the parking lot?
We
Oh.
were there, but they started a 6 a.m. class, so we're back inside in that downstairs group fitness room.
Where the basketball courts are? Oh
Yeah,
no,
right
I
next to
mean,
it.
next to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll say because I used to play basketball from 5 to 8, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm
We're
sure
right,
they're
right
still
next door to
playing.
that, and so similar to like a CrossFit where we put together kind of the workout of the day, whatever, some kind of circuit, something. It's
Yeah.
usually more fitness related than kind of heavy weights. But we've got again a good crossing of people doing it, male, female, older, younger. And so we kind of keep it to where it's a good Friday workout, something different.
It's awesome. I may come join you. I'm
Yeah.
signed up for a 6 o'clock class at Go Primal this Friday, but maybe next week.
Well, this one's free.
Yeah.
Next week's not?
No, next
Oh.
week is too. Fight
Yeah.
Club's free is my
Well,
point.
technically this is free because I'm doing that 90-day body comp challenge with them. So I
Okay.
get the gym for 90 days free. So I'm trying to take advantage of it.
That doesn't come with Coach Webster though.
Yeah, very true. Definitely not free. Hey, to be a part of it, but
I just
Gotta
have
use it
sweat
'cause I did it.
equity.
Yeah.
Huh?
Sweat equity.
yeah, yeah. All right, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Grit Growth Podcast with host Carson Stefanelli and Matt Webster. We sincerely hope you were inspired by the interview and found at least one useful tool or tactic to implement in your own life. Now, level up by taking immediate action. Apply apply one lesson learned to your life as soon as possible to make sure it sticks. Post it and tag us to increase accountability. You can join the Grit Growth movement to restore American grit to its former glory by building an unprecedented force of conquerors, both in business and in life, at www.gritgrowth.org and wherever you're active on the socials. Please also drop a rating and review on your podcast app, as it goes a long way in helping the movement gain traction. Now, don't let this inspiration go to waste. Commit to conquer. Lead your life. Leave a legacy. Gather your grit and go get after it.